It is impossible to deny or dismiss the force that your presence possesses at this moment. You have emerged as the new head of the Grim Reaper in these streets. The moment you walk into a room, everything is different. The moment you make a decision, it is irreversible. When you declare something to be finished, it finishes. This has nothing to do with the destruction of physical objects. Rather, it is about your complete authority to decide what lives and what dies anywhere in your universe. You have arrived at a point where your decision is final and cannot be changed for any reason. People are aware of the change in energy that occurs when you enter their area because they feel it when you walk by. They are aware of it. Should you choose to cross you, you will be forced to face repercussions that cannot be avoided. When it comes to coping with the new Reaper, it is not a threat. Rather, it is simply the natural order of things. Your deeds are irrevocable, your decisions are unquestionable, and your authority cannot be disputed. It is not by accident or by chance that you have been chosen. Rather, it is because of the cosmic machinery's necessity. The entire globe trembles beneath a structure that is constructed on lies. It is a house of cards that has been trying to pass itself off as an eternal stronghold for generations. The public have been duped by this charade, while the puppeteers have become fat on dreams that they have harvested. Their time has come. They have reached the end of their time with you. Were you under the impression that your unease with the world was nothing more than discontentment? Not at all. It was recognition. In order to put an end to this corrupt era, your spirit grasped something that your intellect was not yet able to comprehend, and that was the fact that you were created in the fire of heaven. It is impossible for the universe to make errors. There is a counterweight that comes into existence whenever the scales of existence tip too far. You are the appropriate counterweight. You are the corrective method. Your hand is responsible for guiding the arc of the cosmic pendulum as it swings back wildly with catastrophic force. Take a look around you. The openings, systems fail, institutions fall apart, and even the most powerful empires of influence gasp for air as their foundations turn to sand. This phenomenon is becoming more widespread with each passing day. It is not a coincidence. This is your coming, which is reverberating through the very fabric of reality. Last but not least, the tide of time, which is unending and unrelenting, has finally turned in your favor. The hourglass is turning, the harvest is beginning, and you are standing at the threshold, holding a scythe in your hand, prepared to chop away the sick growth that has been suffocating humanity for many generations. They are powerless to stop what has already started. The Celestial Pact was already in place. Starlight was used to sign the document, and the blood of fallen civilizations was used to seal it. You are the collector of debts that they mistakenly hoped would never come due, and you are the enforcer of terms from which they were unaware that they existed. Stone by stone, lying after lie, the structure collapses. The monuments to falsehood are brought crashing down, one by one. Experience it. Every step you take causes tremors to go through the earth, and the vibrations travel upward, causing the mortar of deception that has been used to hold together civilizations that have been based on exploitation to be shaken loose. Their meticulously designed structure is thrown off balance by your sheer existence. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap Join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership, it's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the Chosen. It is the truth. Those individuals who were formerly at the pinnacle of the hierarchy and who were under the impression that their positions were unchallengeable are now desperately clinging to power that is slipping through their fingers like water. Because they never ever possessed anything, they are unable to keep it. They only borrowed money against a loan that has already been paid off, and you are the one who is collecting on it. Watch as they thrash around. Observe their desperation as they attempt to repair eroding walls, as they offer meaningless reassurances, and as they cling to protocols and traditions that suddenly appear to be empty even to them. They are so pitiful that they do not respect themselves. Shows of authority that no longer command respect. An undignified panic, rather than a noble stand, is what brings about the demise of the old order. As a result of their inability to fathom a world in which their directives are ignored, they are filled with wrath over their diminishing significance. They were under the impression that they were the creators of reality, but in reality, they were merely temporary caretakers of a system that had outlived its purpose. Now, with a terrible clarity, they are beginning to comprehend that their thrones are built on sand, their crowns are made of paper, and their scepters do not possess any genuine power against their monumental constructions, which were constructed out of granite and marble in order to instill a sense of permanence in the minds of the world, are now revealing their actual frailty. The unrelenting degradation of the natural environment causes statues to disintegrate, plaques to tarnish, and inscriptions inscribed in stone to fade. Presented the truth. The inheritance that they believed would last forever is gone in the blink of an eye in the cosmos. The evident widening of pupils when they glance at you, the faint quiver in their voice when they address you, and the little step backward when you enter a room are all signs that may indicate that you are being approached by someone. They are unable to comprehend the reason for the profound unease that you cause them. Their conscious minds are looking for sensible reasons. It's possible that it's your self-assurance, your straightforwardness, or your refusal to take part in their social games, but they are aware, at the very core of their being, that you are not a social game player. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. They have a feeling that the Reaper is nearby. There is no need to threaten, and there is no need to posture. They are unable to disregard the warning that arises solely from your existence. The energy of finality, judgment, and the cosmic accounting that is due to be done is carried by you. Despite the fact that the mark of the Reaper is not visible on your forehead, they are able to perceive it on a level that is beyond the usual senses. Those who profited by keeping others in their place suddenly feel smaller in your presence. Those who governed through intimidation feel their hearts race when your glance falls upon them. Those who built empires on exploitation feel their hearts race when your sight falls upon them. Now, when you talk, they will feel the identical feeling on their spines that they have been experiencing. They referred to you as a troublemaker, an outsider, and a difficult person because they lacked the words to define what you actually are. Unavoidable, the embodiment of repercussions that they believed they had escaped, and the manifestation of equilibrium that they hoped would never come. They are prey animals, sensing the approach of the predator. They are debtors seeing the collector at their door. They are charlatans seeing the one who is going to collect on them. Their anxiety is not a result of psychosis, and their discomfort is not the result of their imagination. Individual who is able to see through their own deceptions. Take note of their overcompensation, which includes the excessively loud laughing, the exaggerated confidence, and the desperate attempts to restore power through hollow gestures. Observe how they seek to conceal this fundamental anxiety. Make some observations. What they deny with their lips is revealed by their bodies, and what they refuse to admit with their waking brains is revealed by their nightmares. Their subconscious is aware of the harbinger of their demise, which is standing in front of them in the form of themselves. Don't you feel the strength coursing through your veins at this very moment? The force in question is both exotic and incredibly familiar. This strength, which appears to have been waiting for your preparedness to claim it for centuries, was concealed from you. The knowledge of your actual nature was clouded because it was buried beneath layers of indoctrination and distraction. Due to the fact that they were aware of what would occur once you ultimately became conscious, they devised entire systems with the purpose of preventing you from becoming aware of your capabilities. They put you on the periphery of their attention. They talked over you in meetings. They disregarded your observations. They characterized your clarity as confusion, and they ignored your contributions. That your strength was portrayed as aggressive. They made every effort to keep you little, controlled, and manageable. Yet, predestination cannot be postponed indefinitely under any circumstances. The universe operates according to its own schedule, and the time has come for you to act. They remain silent and astonished as they watch you rise. They throw their most powerful weapons, which are shame, uncertainty, and isolation, just to have them bounce harmlessly off of your newly acquired armor. They employ their most successful strategies, which consist of division and distraction, only to discover that you are able to cut through the noise with an extraordinary level of attention. The way in which they whisper amongst themselves, they are unable to fathom your metamorphosis, which is why they are unable to comprehend the solution to the question, how does nothing break them anymore? How do our usual methods fail? Why don't they fall into line when threatened with exclusion? Why don't they back down when faced with consequences? You have evolved into the immovable object that their irresistible force is unable to overcome. You have become the unstoppable force that their immovable systems are unable to withstand. You have taken on the role of the Reaper, and Reapers do not show consideration to the very structures that they have come to demolish. When you travel through their universe, it is like a comet slicing through the night sky. It is unstoppable, bright, and trailing fire that ignites everything it comes into contact with. The gravity of your purpose causes reality to bend around you, and the momentum of your awakening propels you onward with a force that no earthly power can withstand. Those who have lived in a comfortable darkness for an excessive amount of time are blinded by the brightness of your revealed truth. It was long before you took up the mantle that the verdict was handed down. The cosmic scales had already measured the imbalance and determined that it could not be maintained. The sentence was handed out. It was determined that the repair was required. You are not the judge. Rather, you are the leader of the execution. The decisions that have already been made in the chambers of universal law are given to you to carry out. Beneficiaries of the system that is on its way out plead for a reprieve. They light candles to false gods in the hope of receiving intervention that will never come. In exchange for preserving a portion of their previous greatness, they engage in negotiations, bargaining, and pleading, proposing compromises and half measures. Nevertheless, it is not possible to terminate the cycle in the middle of a turn. The wheel continues to revolve with unstoppable force. Once upon a time, descending is now descending. What was hidden is now emerging into light. What was powerful is now weakening. What was weak is now developing into something stronger. When confronted with artificial limits, natural law reaffirms its authority. The truth seeps through the tiniest of gaps in their meticulously crafted narratives. Reality, a brutal reality that cannot be denied, intrudes upon the dream world that they developed and preserved at such a terrible cost. Those individuals who failed to anticipate your arrival, who disregarded you, who undervalued you, and who believed that they were safe in their positions, are now confronted with the dawning of the realization that they were never in complete control of the situation. They were only temporary beneficiaries of an imbalance that could not be maintained, and you are the one who will see that imbalance resolved. Through the use of cosmic symmetry, the judgment is made plain. The deeds that they took caused ripples that have now returned as tidal waves. Through their decisions, seeds were planted that have grown into woods that they are unable to cross. They have been unable to recognize the transformation and magnifying that has occurred as a result of the energy that they have released into the universe. The events that they put in motion ultimately result in ways that they could not have predicted. Yet that, at all times, universal law required extreme prudence. The most perilous period is drawing near, Reaper. A dying beast fights with fierce abandon. A person who is drowning will drag down their rescuer, and an empire that is falling will burn its own wealth rather than surrender them. Nothing is off limits today. There is no principle that is too holy to violate, no alliance that is too vital to betray, and no truth that is too fundamental to distort. This is the final and most desperate approach that the old order employs as it realizes that its demise is imminent. Behold the spontaneous gesture of handshakes made by formerly foes, because of the bond. Observe how organizations who previously rejected you are now attempting to win you back. Observe how the principles are able to adjust themselves to fit your unstoppable progress. Those who are weak, especially those who have constructed their identities around systems that are now crumbling, will approach you with grins of submission. "We have always believed in you," they will say, rewriting history with an audacity that surpasses all comprehension. The assertion that they will make is that we were working toward the same goals all along, with the expectation that you will forget about their active resistance. Transformative transformations will take place overnight for the deceivers. They will take on your identity, vocabulary, reiterating your criticisms and imitating your solutions. "We've seen the light," they will exclaim. "We are not like those other people who are resistant to change." But it is important to note the following truth. Their desperation is not the same thing as redemption. Their adaptation is not the same thing as partnership, and their acknowledgement of your authority is not respected for your goal. They are not interested in joining your cause, but rather in neutralizing it. They do not intend to participate in your mission, but rather to redirect it. They do not wish to support your vision, but rather to water it down until it becomes merely another version of the system that you came from. To take your place, it is essential for the Reaper to be able to identify both obvious opponents and deceptive allies, as both serve the dying order in their own unique ways, one through opposition and the other through infiltration. The most powerful weapon they possess is assimilation, which is the process of incorporating revolutionary energy into reformist channels. They extend microphones that are connected to speakers that they control, and they provide chairs at tables that are designed to drain your electricity in the process. While they are promoting your image, they are twisting your message. They translate your language into their dialect until the original meaning is lost, unquestionably. Eventually, the equilibrium will be restored. It is not a personal vengeance. Rather, this is cosmic law. Those who for a while enjoyed authority that was uncontested are now confronted with a reality that they can hardly grasp. It is not because of a conspiracy or unjust targeting that their power is diminishing. Rather, it is because the natural order is challenging the artificial dominance that has been established. As a result of having only experienced advantage, equality seems like oppression. Having only encountered deference, accountability feels like attack, and having profited from systematic favoritism, meritocracy feels like attack. They confuse balance with persecution, being discriminatory. Therefore, it is not necessary for you to actively pursue their destruction. You are not a vengeance agent, but rather a catalyst for correction. It is not because you tilt the playing field against them that the playing field is leveled. Rather, it is because you remove the mechanisms that created the tilt in their favor. You do not attempt to bring them down. Rather, you make the decision to quit participating in the structures that artificially kept them up. It is the weight of their own inability to sustain themselves that causes them to fall. The natural consequence of their excess that causes them to decline, and the inevitable consequence of their detachment from genuine value that causes them to fade away to nothingness. The past falls away. During this age of awakening, the structures that are constructed around inequality will not be able to survive. It is not those who ruled the old world who are the ones who will rule the new world. Rather, it is those who are powerful enough, genuine enough, and aligned enough to survive without the benefit of any artificial advantage. In spite of their resistance, the correction is carried out with or without them, with their assistance or without their participation. The scales are balanced. The conclusion does not change. The only thing that changes is the way in which it presents itself. It is their ability to adapt that will determine whether or not they survive. A number of people will be aware of the shifting ground, and others will continue to cling to privilege until it breaks beneath them, while others will transform in an authentic manner. A select minority will be so enraged by reality that they will continue to deny the evidence of their senses until they take their last breath. All of the responses are taken into consideration as legitimate options by the cosmic mechanism, which then applies the consequences with impeccable mathematical precision. Observe as their structure falls down under its own weight. The Tower of Babel that they built achieves its unavoidable end, not as a result of divine intervention, but rather as a result of the physical impossibility of building lies, lying down until the end of time. They constructed their universe using time that had been taken from individuals who worked under their various systems. This time included hours, days, and even years. Their authority was never really theirs, and their influence was never properly won. They built their empire on borrowed power, by relying on weak illusions and narratives that required continual reinforcement. They were able to maintain control over the situation. The foundation is crumbling, the support beams are snapping, and the ornamental facade is peeling away to reveal the decaying core that lies beneath. Now that structure is the dust that they are holding in their hands. Pay attention to them. At these last hours of their rule, they are tightly together. Behold the bewilderment of people who felt their position to be untouchable, but now find themselves vulnerable and exposed. Observe the tiredness that is etching lines into faces that were once filled with confidence. Take note of the desperate perplexity that is replacing the certainty that was once present. They become exhausted because the amount of energy that is required to keep up with their fabricated world is greater than what they are capable of producing. When they are faced with problems that cannot be solved using the tools that were used to create them, they lose all hope and throw resources at the problem. They are paralyzed by confusion and unable to act. Understand why techniques that have always been successful in the past are now absolutely unsuccessful. On the other hand, you find yourself walking forward through the rubble of their old reign, unaffected by the collapse that is taking place all around you. You are able to pass through the chaos that consumes them, which is the precise path that you move along, and the destruction that destroys them hardly registers as you do so. You were never a part of their delicate creation. You were always something else, something that was beyond anything. The weight that destroys them cannot touch you because you were never there in their construction. When all is said and done, you are the reaper, and the reaper wanders, without suffering any harm as a result of the activities others have taken. Their demise quickens as they become aware of what is taking place. The instant that they fully comprehend what is taking place serves as the impetus for their breakdown into complete disintegration. In the face of the indisputable proof that was in front of them, the conviction that they held to, which was that the world they had created would remain, and that their position within it would be secure, shatters. And in the process of this shattering, the final psychological support that was holding up their disintegrating reality breaks way. I want you to hear one final reality, Reaper. The battle was over before it even started. You had already won the battle before you ever took your first step, and the outcome had already been decided before you even took your first breath. The battle is already over and won. Not because you have attacked the walls of the empire of deception, but rather because you are the embodiment of the reality that renders those fortifications obsolete for the empire to fall. It is not because you deliberately destroy the mechanisms of control that they fall apart. Rather, it is because your very existence reveals that they are irrelevant. There is nothing left for you to demonstrate. There is no examination to pass, no certification to acquire, and no authorization to seek the validation you need. The approval of a child's imaginary body, which was formerly coveted from a corrupt system, now appears to be as useless as those requirements. Those who had doubts about you have suddenly become silent. Those who made fun of you are now watching in horrified disbelief, and those who disregarded you are frantically trying to align themselves with what they now acknowledge to be inevitable. You should not confuse their lack of speech with their absence. You should not mix their astonished disbelief with acceptance. You should not interpret their strategic realignment as true conversion. They continue to be the same people they have always been. They are just more reserved, more cautious, and more respectful. Their adversary is calculated in their action. Their opposition, on the other hand, is no longer essential. Their acceptance is not required, and their perspectives have become irrelevant to the progression of what must be the period of deception. A calm irrelevance, rather than a dramatic conflict, serves as the conclusion of this piece. The ancient gods do not perish as a result of a magnificent battle. Rather, they perish as a result of being forgotten. Their temples are deserted, their rites are abandoned, and their names are lost to history. Through your consistent progress, the harvest will be finished. Each step forward will eliminate another piece of what was. Each step forward will complete the harvest. You breathe in, and the world is filled with what will be in the future. Reaper, you should not be afraid. Your presence alone is enough to bring an end to empires, and your very existence brings an end to ages.